Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
To the last drop, are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of The Crazy Life. I'm Brian, and joining me as usual, Hanno.
Happy New Year!
Yeah, woo, yeah, happy, yeah.
Yay! And there was much rejoicing. Yay!
Yay.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, I was at the post office the other day, and the guy working the counter, he's been there forever. So I like, we know each other's names, you know, because I've been going there since I worked at Family Video. So it's been, 20 plus years ago, you know. And, I was asking him how his holidays were and everything. And he's like, it feels like, I feel like we just got done with Thanksgiving, and then I was like, man, I got to get my Christmas stuff up because it's almost Christmas, you know. And he goes, and now I'm kind of sad because I got to take it down already. He's like, I feel like it was only like a 2-week span, even though I know it was a month, you know. And
yeah, I
was like, yeah, you know. I told him, I said, well, you don't have to take your stuff down. And I was like, it's supposed to be kind of cold for the next couple weeks anyway, so I don't think I'd want to get out there doing that. You know, Tony pulled the right move, which was basically, was it the weekend around Christmas? It was like 60 degrees here. So it was like, that was the time, man. If you didn't get out there and get it down now, I mean, this week we're in the 20s for the next like week and a half, basically. So it, you know, you don't want to be out there for any length of time if you don't have to be. But it was just kind of funny how, you know, we were both like, yeah, it's New Year's already, you know, or it's the new year already. And, I was like, it's weird. I'm like, because it feels like such a rush, and then New Year's hits and it just doesn't seem like it's anything anymore. And I remember it kind of used to seem like there was like a build up to New Year, even though it was only a week between Christmas and New Year's, you know. And maybe part of it, this is going to sound weird probably, but it was like, I remember growing up, it was like there were bowl games, like football games on New Year's Day, like all day there were bowl games. And that's why when I was working, I would be like, I'll work any other holiday, but I want New Year's Day off. Because my dad and I used to sit and watch football, you know, and that was like, I'll work all day Christmas, Thanksgiving, I don't care, you know, like, but give me New Year's Day off. And everybody always thought it was because, you know, I was, you know, going to go get blitzed the night before. And, you know, I did plenty of times, but it was also like, it was more about the football than it was anything. And, now there's like 40 some bowl games now. So literally there's a bowl game on almost every night all the way through, you know. It kind of it doesn't feel special anymore like it used to. Because it was, I think, everything but the national championship game used to be New Year's Day, and then the national championship game was like a week later. That way it had its own spotlight, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, I don't know if it's that or what, or maybe it's just, you know, as you get older, days just start just whipping by, I guess. I don't know. But so how was your holidays?
I end up working so much
Yeah.
that it ends up just kind of being a blur.
Do you work just so other people have the time off, or do you work just because it's just work needs to be done?
There was some of that this year because they just pour. This is just really terrible. I don't know this for a fact, but I've had two sources mention it now, that my coworkers were scrambling to use up their PTO so they didn't lose it with the rollover.
Right.
And I seriously just every year I'm like a freaking broken record come September. Like who has too much? You know, start using it now so we're not using it. And then it turns out that our general manager evidently had, I don't know, over 100 hours of PTO. And even though you're only allowed to roll over a week, evidently they allowed him to roll all of it over.
Oh, wow. That's a great message to send to everybody else.
Oh, our operation has been like this since our last general manager. And it's just really hard for me because my first employer that I worked for 15 years, nobody had special deals. Nobody had special contracts. Everyone operated under the same guidelines.
Right.
And I admired that and respected that of my employer, you know, but my GM just made up his own like flex comp time package or something and was using that instead of his PTO for vacations.
Sure. Why not?
Right. Because it's not, and the thing about it is that any of us that had gone through all of our HR stuff, remember that was strictly forbidden. It's not part of our deal, you know, and this guy just walks in. It's been the hard part for me, the whole thing. Guy just walks in and doesn't bother to learn anything about how we do things and why we do it this way.
Yeah.
It's going to do things my way until somebody points it out differently. Yeah. It's just dumb, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyhow, there were people needing to take time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, I'll come in and work half day for you. Yeah, like, no problem. You can take the day off. And then it turned out then I had an opportunity to do a gig on New Year's Eve, and I really wanted to take that day off so I could, because it's out at where there's a really nice hot springs resort. And I was stoked because usually when we play there, it's a Saturday night and I got to be at work Sunday. And because it was the middle of the week, I was going to get a chance to, like, you know, get done with the gig, go soak in the hot springs. Because if you have a cabin there, you can just walk right out into the pools.
Oh wow!
And it doesn't matter all night long. It doesn't matter. And then like the next day was going to be great, and I was excited about that. But I saw that, you know, my one coworker who had to burn time had that day off. I'm like, all right, I'll just do a half day so that way we at least have somebody here. And then he ended up using a couple of days earlier in the month. And then I get reminded that our annual board meeting is going to be on a Friday, which is my day off. So I got to come in on another day off. So I pretty much worked every day that week, meaning that I was at the office for some amount of time.
Right.
And so
which even if it's a few hours, there's something draining about that.
It's just,
I used to hate that too. Like if our you know, monthly meeting or whatever would fall on my day off, and I'm like, man, I got to come in. Well, usually I was more upset I had to get up early, but you know, it was just like I got to come in, and it's like this is my day off. You know, even though it's only for like an hour and a half. You know, whatever.
It's still So I when I saw it, when I was reminded of that, I was like, all right, now wait a minute, Frank, you don't need to burn any more time, do you? He's like, no, because I took those 2 days. So I'm like, okay, I'm taking that day. I'm making a call right here. I'm taking that day. I'm going to be here every day for a week. I'm taking New Year's Eve off. And it's because we actually used to go out of our way not to take any time off around the holidays at all.
Yeah.
And like the entire month I have a dry erase board calendar, and like it was just everyone taking time off. Everyone did, the GM all whole week off. I was like, this is never it's always been frustrating when somebody has to do it like at the beginning of the month, but this was just beyond ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got to fire one of my coworkers. That was awesome.
Oh boy.
So I've mentioned him before. He's the one that shows up and goes hide somewhere.
Oh right.
Yeah. And just there's just no people that are the give them an inch, they take it a mile type. You have to be on them all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
100%.
You just have to.
Yeah, because you can't trust they're going to go do what they're supposed to do, because obviously he goes off and hides, right?
Yeah,
so if you're not like up his butt the whole time, like he's just going to go hide.
That's it. And I'm not a supervisor. I'm just his coworker. But I am the facilities administrator. So if I do see something that's not up to snuff, I will call it out. And one of them has been his record keeping. It's just been atrocious. It's been hard for me to understand it. It's always been just a part of our employment that we do work orders of everything that we do down to the quarter hour. That's it.
Well, and it makes sense. I mean, good paper trails. It's important.
And the reason why comes up all the time when we say, "Hey, when was the last time we did this?" You just go look it up. Boom, we did it at this time, whatever. So in the middle of December, I mean, it's been like every other month. And in the middle of December, I finally was like, I sent an email to my GM saying 4 days in a row, didn't write down his full time. And to me, the only reason you don't is because you actually only worked a half a day.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because you're hiding something, basically.
And you don't even like you couldn't even make something up. And but I'm not going there. My whole thing is he's just not keeping the records.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to not go with the fact that he's actually not working, which we all know he wasn't,
right,
and isn't, that's up to you. And I said, he's on his phone way too much.
Yeah.
Like way too much on the personal device. And one of my other coworkers said the same thing. And so like I'm talking, this is right after Christmas. And the other thing is just being late all the time. So he shows up late on a snow day, and it was already on garbage days, you can't be late. So he'd already been late on a garbage day. He was late on a snow day. And I've been at work for, since a little after 7. So he shows up at 8:30 and goes into the office, and the GM says, "Hey, they were just looking for you on the radio. They're over here working, blah, blah, blah." Well, my coworker, Sean, sees him not where everyone else is, and he's trying to get his attention, and he can't hear because he's on his freaking phone, with his earpiece. Yeah. So Sean finally has to grab him by the shoulder and says, "Hey, we're all up there. Get up there." So he gets up there. And he's still talking on his phone.
Jeez.
And Sean's a supervisor at my work, but not his supervisor, Antonio's supervisor. But he just says, not professionally and not politely, who are you talking to? And the response was, "It's none of your damn business." And Sean
actually kind of is, because we're here to work.
Yeah. So Sean lost it completely.
Yeah.
And I call him the kid just because he's the youngest of all of us. Yeah. Throws a snow shovel and hits Sean in the ankle.
Oh, that's for sure not okay.
Well,
even if on accident.
I pulled a crazy life on Sean like days later, a week later, when I told him, I said, "Sean, I know you didn't ask for this advice, but I'm just going to phrase this, talk about this on podcasts all the time. Let's talk about your wins." Okay. You had a little punk throw a shovel at you and hit you. You've played hockey your entire life. You're from Boston. You're Irish. You grew up in a neighborhood where fights were just normal.
Yeah.
You didn't bust him in the chops.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah. It is for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he felt terrible. I mean, he felt terrible. And finally I said, we all agreed, said the reason this happened is because our GM was not staying up on him.
Yeah.
The reason that there was an explosion is because you let it go for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I looked at Sean, I said, well, you handled it totally unprofessionally. It's not how you're supposed to do it, but I'm glad somebody finally did it.
Yeah.
Because it needed to happen. Because I have been just sucking it up for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting
it's
here.
so hard to do that too when you literally don't really have any power in the scenario. You can't fire him, you can't whatever else.
Nope.
Like you said, you can report him, you can do whatever you're supposed to do by the book, and you've got a boss that is just like meh about it. It's super frustrating. Because and also it becomes like for everybody else, it's kind of like, well, why am I busting my ass this hard?
Well, right. Yep.
Like this guy's only doing half-ass work and he gets to keep his job. Why do I need to kill myself here?
And I'd already at a meeting, when we were trying to, we're trying to lift him up again, trying to give him some agency, trying to get him focused. I had brought up already that his time records are a work of fiction. I'm like, and I'd already said if it were up to me, he had been gone last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has no business being here, but I prefer the carrot over the stick, and let's give him a big carrot and see what happens. And he just lifted a middle finger.
Yeah.
But the good news out of all of this was that GM gets a hold of our HR attorney, and she was great. She's just like, oh no, there's no gray area here. He's done, gone.
Yeah.
You don't even tell me the rest of the stuff, right?
Yeah,
None of it matters. But the first word she used was insubordination. And I was like, that's what's been bothering me. And I just couldn't put my finger on what it was. And it was the fact that you sit down with somebody, you talk to them, you give them an opportunity to improve, and they just choose not to, because that's what it is. And it is just insubordination. Yeah. And the thing that gets me is, and it's amazing, like I even said it, our GM sat down with me and Sean to talk about it, and I'm said he's gone. He needs to be gone. Like there's no reason he should be working here. And you know how hard it is to find anybody. I'm like, who cares? He only worked here half the time anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's not like he has big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Like Joe tried to make it out like he had big shoes.
Like you could literally hire somebody at part-time and they would fill his shoes.
Yeah. And so I was like, it's not a big deal. Yeah. And like Sean felt so guilty. And I kept saying, hey, remember, this is a grown man.
Yeah.
With who can make decisions for himself, and these are his choices. In the end, when he was notified, he blamed it all on Sean.
Oh,
it was all Sean's fault.
Yeah, of course.
Like usual, it's always whataboutism and stuff. And the thing to me is so much arrogance and so much ego, and I was like, his ego is writing checks his family can't cash. Like he's got 2 daughters that are elementary going in, going to be high school age pretty soon. One of them is some on the spectrum, really bad eyesight, health issues. Mm-hmm. It's like, you need to be able to provide for this family. Got divorced last year, got a girlfriend, knocked her up. It's like, clearly your decision making isn't the best. And the thing that got me is I was like, I looked at my GM and I said, I think one of this, like, so much of this baffles me, but one of them is I'm pretty sure he just has been with us for 15 years, which means he gets a 4th week of PTO. That means your employer is willing to pay you not to work for a month.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A month.
Yeah.
And you just can't suck it up, show up on time, and do some record keeping.
It's amazing how, like if you told everybody the whole package, right? Like the amount of money and blah, blah, blah. There's so many people out there that would be like, are you out of your mind? Like, how could you, right? And then there's other people that it doesn't matter. It's not enough. It doesn't, it's just not enough for them.
To me,
meaning it's not enough to motivate them. Not that it isn't enough money or not enough PTO or what, because it's obviously a month is a lot of PTO. Yeah. Most people are happy getting 2 weeks, so.
Yeah. Right. And I even was laughing. I'm like, we got pretty good benefits. They're not the best, but they're pretty good. And we set a pretty low bar here. It's not like anyone's cracking a whip. Right. I mean, we really do. And his behavior is of someone that's 26, not almost 40. Right. It was wild.
It's very much I'll go get another job kind of situation.
Well, here's his thing is he does all the side work too. That's one of the problems is he's got his own business on the side.
Oh,
all right, great. Well, now you can go work all those jobs you want, but there's a big difference between doing work on the side and running your own business. Yeah, and getting work because that
it's hard to maintain and grow your brand. Yeah,
yeah. And here's the other thing, but this is the part of the holidays that blow me away. Our owners are so generous. And I mean, I got thousands of dollars in tips.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not lying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's 200 here, 300 here, 600 there, $1,000 check.
Wow.
$1,000 Amazon gift card.
Wow. That's awesome.
And
not just a ham, huh?
Right? And you lifted a middle finger to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, right? Like I'm thinking of, we live in a world now where careers don't exist the way they used to. Like when I got out of high school, if you got into Jeep in Toledo, you were set. Yeah. That was it, man. Yeah. You were set. Now, if you get into Jeep, they only pay, I think it's under $15 an hour to start, which is not great money when Target's paying you $14 an hour. Kmart didn't pay anywhere near what Jeep paid when I got out of high school. You know what I mean? Like to use a comparison.
Yeah.
So the kind of job you've got, especially after being there 15 years and blah, blah, blah with that guy, it's like, dude, that's a career. Like you're locked in for the most part, you'd think, for the most part, you're pretty safe, as long as you do your work,
right. You are, and you can even,
because you're not in an industry that's going to go bankrupt tomorrow.
No, the worst thing that happens is with the recession or something like that, that, they'll freeze pay. They won't ever cut pay.
Right.
They might, health insurance might not get, that deductible might go higher.
Sure. Right.
But you're still going to get 3%. We have 3% match on your retirement. Mm-hmm. We, like idiots, we added a fourth week. It's, I've always had 3 weeks of basically vacation.
Yeah.
Every, wherever at my old employer. And because our GM had his own contract with the fourth week and the facilities manager found out, all of a sudden everyone got a fourth week. If you're, I mean, it baffles me. That means that everybody is not working for a month.
I know, that's crazy. Yeah. Now I assume you can't use it all at one time, right?
No. Well, no. Yeah, nobody does, and that's now. Granted, that's after everyone's got 15 years. But even if you have 10 years, now you add your it used to be sick time. Now it's PTO. It's basically a month. If you add the sick time, it's 5 weeks. Wow. You have 5 weeks of PTO.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
My sister works at the courthouse, and I think she's been there like 20 years, and I think she's around the same range. It's that kind of job usually where you get those like over the top. Like most things, like you said, you pretty much top out at maybe 3 if they go to 3, you know.
Yeah.
But most people I know get 2, and then if you add sick time, it becomes 3 basically. You know.
The only one that's better is working for a municipality, pretty much, of a major metropolitan. You know, like
Right.
Neil's a union. Our friend Neil's a union groundskeeper with San Francisco, and I mean the amount of PTO that he has, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they get to
and
roll it all over. And
Right.
it's
My brother's that
crazy.
way with the
Yeah.
with the
With
post
postal
office.
service. Yes,
Yeah, for every
exactly.
so many hours he works, he gets X amount of time off, and it rolls over, and he can cash it out, I believe, when he retires. So he can either cash it out or use it. Like the guy who was my mailman for a long time, basically what he did was he just saved his up, and then when he was getting about to retire, he just was like, "Hey, I'm taking like 3 months off," and they were like, "Okay," because they're gonna pay you for it either way, so they didn't care, you know.
So part of my review was, and this is going to tie in with our topic for today, but my like what are my goals for next year? And one of my goals was just to be more of service, and even I'm there, with the exception of our old facilities manager. There are very few people that know our facility like I do.
Yeah,
It's just a fact.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of I've been there for 18 years.
Yeah.
Right. Just because I know a lot and, I think I'm pretty good at what I do doesn't mean I need to flex it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to get to that point where you're like, comes
do
back
you
to
know
that.
who I am?
Do you know who I am? Right.
Yeah.
and I want to do less of that. I want to have more. I want to be more of service, and I think that's what was so baffling about this whole situation is I'm sitting here going, I know I can have an ego, but I would never do like this.
Yeah,
is insanity.
that's another level. Yeah,
it really is. It was baffling. And
but the thing is, I'll bet you, like, if you really sat down and like someone else sat down and talked with him, you would find out that, like you said, it's ego overriding other things, and that it'll probably be everybody else's fault about all the things. It's someone's fault that he was late. It's someone's fault that he didn't this. He's something, It's never that it's that person's fault, because they're just so, they just won't accept their part in something, And
I what was great was the support of our board members. We tried everything to lift him up. I went out of my way. That's why I've never felt I don't feel guilty about any of it, because during the course of the year, I go out of my way to point out what he does, because not everybody gets to see what we do out there.
Yeah.
And so I go out of my way to point it out and say, hey, this guy's really doing a great job with this. He's doing a really great job with this. And so I tried as much as I could to lift him up. And so I feel good about that. And like you said, there's no reason to feel bad anyway, because he was told what he's not doing. He had opportunities.
Right. So at that point, it's like you're literally given the wheel. Yeah. And exactly. Where you steer is your choice at that point.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you end up getting fired, it's on you. Yep, exactly. It's on you.
So the good part about the good part about all this was sitting down with my GM and finally actually finding out that he has been tracking the fact that he is late all the time. He has been, that my GM had a track record on him, which I was like, thank goodness, because my biggest fear was that he actually hadn't been documenting anything, and in which case then, terminating would have been difficult. Luckily, he did something that was, violence in the workplace is pretty straight.
Yeah, that's inexcusable. Cut. Yeah.
But the good news was that at least, I got to thank my GM and say, thank you for letting me know that, because I bring this stuff to your attention, but you never give me any feedback. You never let me know that you're handling it. So as far as I know, I don't know what's going on. So that's all I can do is just keep bringing it to your attention. And any employee's disciplinary policy or issues or whatever it is like it's none of my business.
No,
right?
No, you're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But however, it is nice to know that it's being handled.
Yes. There's ways he could word that without actually
without saying what happened
much either.
I'm totally good with saying I'm on it.
You know, like I look into that stuff. I watch it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm watching it. You don't even need to tell me what you've done. You don't even need to tell me where we are in the process, because honestly, I believe that is between the supervisor and the employee. That's it. Period. End of story. It's nobody else's business. But yeah, it was an interesting way to end the holiday, and then now we're short staffed a little bit, which is it makes things challenging. And so what happens is I pretty much get home and I just do nothing. I did a lot of video games over the holidays. I did get to play a solo gig it was kind of like a open mic night where everyone got like 25 minutes. And cool. I got up and I played my songs.
Oh, cool.
Which I don't get to do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I take that back. I get to play my songs, but I don't get to play certain songs that I like to play my way and have, and the other thing I got to do is I got to jump up on guitar and play lead guitar with my, with Tom, who I play at Doghouse. He got up and played some of his tunes, and he said, "Hey, you want to play some lead on some stuff?" And I was like, "Great, I'd love to." And because I've pretty much been doing nothing but playing bass for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 7 years, whatever it's been. And so it's nice to kind of, flex those chops a little bit. It just felt really good. And
out of curiosity, because I don't know this, like, do you noodle around on a non-bass guitar much anymore? Because you play so much. When you play, you're playing bass most of the time.
For enjoyment, I always play guitar. Always.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I play.
I just was wondering if you were a little rusty getting up there, or anything.
No, because I mean, I'm not like I'm going to go do a gig and play lead guitar ready, but I play enough where, and here's the other thing, playing bass, I do have opportunities to play leads on bass. So I am always working on things.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, pretty much for me, playing bass is the only time I pick up the bass is when I'm working on stuff within the context of the band.
Oh, okay.
And then for my own personal enjoyment, I play guitar. And I mostly write on guitar also. So, it wasn't like, where I haven't picked this thing up for a while. That wasn't the case at all.
What's this? Is this a violin?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was really cool. And then, after New Year's, I had that little, it was nice to feel that like, okay, let's put the stuff away. Let's put some things away. And I didn't make a big deal of it. Like, I'm going to clean the house. It was like, I'll do a little here, do a little there. It felt good to just kind of, get some things organized. I got some stuff listed for sale. I really feel like the end of my year has been pretty good. The going to the gym fell off just because it's busy, and I'll pick it right back up again. I'm totally good with that. Had a really fun gig for New Year's, and then the other thing was I applied for a new home equity line of credit for my house, because I realized that probably in the next couple of years we're going to see housing values start to drop again, and I was like, I might as well take advantage of my equity and just get a larger equity line. And so I basically applied for a double, and they were offering some deals right now where, with a home equity line of credit, most places will allow you to it's just basically like an interest only line of credit.
Yeah.
Where I can just pay interest for up to 10 years. And then at 10 years, it converts to basically like a 20-year mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Is how it works. So like, let's say I had $10,000 on my home equity line of credit. It's interest only, variable rate, prime plus whatever. And then after that 10 years, whatever hasn't been paid off just gets converted into a 20-year fixed rate, like a mortgage, right?
Okay.
And most of these HELOCs have a cool feature where, let's say, like, for example, one of the things that I'm doing is I want to increase it so Sharon can buy a car.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharon can buy a car, and we can take that, let's just say it's $15,000 for the car. We can lock it in as like a fixed interest loan.
Oh, okay.
For whatever, for 10 years. And they're doing a special now where, even though like the rate right now is roughly around 8% for HELOCs, if you in the first 6 months of your new HELOC, they'll drop it down to 6%, and then you can lock it in. So if I take 15 grand, we buy a car. I can then say I want to lock this 6% in for the next 5 years, right? So this is great. So it was a great opportunity, one, to get in a lower rate on some things, and then also to just increase my equity. So just I have extra for, emergencies or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Well, even though it's pretty painless, their process, they usually get it done pretty fast, and the holidays were a problem. It always feels like I got just a magnifying glass on me, like they're looking at everything, because they are. They're looking at everything. They can see my entire financial, my tax returns, my bank accounts. There's going to be an appraiser. It comes to the house. So the good news is the appraiser put in his report over the weekend, and it's more than enough. Now it's just a matter of whether the underwriter thinks I'm a good risk or not, and hopefully I am. But it was another one of those, it gives me anxiety, but on the other hand, there's nothing to lose.
Right.
I already have something.
Yeah, exactly. Worst case scenario. Yeah, it's not like you're putting your house on the line where if you don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. Yeah. But and this has also tied me back into my coworker. I was just like, I can do this because I've been there for 18 years.
Yeah.
And they pay us we get paid really well. It's like,
yeah.
Like I just sat there. I was like,
that's why I said it's amazing how somebody can be given that opportunity and have all that, and it's still not enough to motivate you to do it, And
I was just like,
I said,
blessings.
Yeah. And meanwhile, like I said, how many people out there would kill for that job, but it's not available in their area or whatever,
right?
It's just not there,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we get paid at a rate that, this is a resort. It's expensive to live here.
Yeah.
And the pay is enough so that you can live here.
Right. Which is not normal. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Usually the help can't, couldn't even buy weekend passes,
Yeah, right. Or what happens is people here work a lot of extra jobs. If you're in the restaurant industry here, you're working at least 2 jobs, maybe 3.
Sure. Yeah.
But my I'm just going to close off with my favorite Christmas gifts I got.
Mm-hmm.
I got a Roomba for my grill.
For your grill?
Yes.
I didn't even know they made that. Okay.
It was hilarious when I opened it. It's for my mother. I opened the package, and like the whole package just screamed "as seen on TV."
Yeah.
Like what it didn't have on it is the little bubble that says "as seen on TV."
Right.
Otherwise, it was an "as seen on TV." And I took the thing out there. I can scrub a grill better than this thing did.
Yeah.
But there was just something really funny about putting it out there. It's got a 10-minute timer, and I just got to hear it go bang, 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 bang. I loved it. I thought it was just so funny.
That's funny.
But my favorite one that I got Dude Bombs.
Okay.
They're little. They're like the Tide Pod.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah, like a little mini bath bomb, but for the toilet.
To make the toilet smell better, or just to clean it?
Yeah, so it's basically like the poopery thing where you just where it covers it, except it's a little it's a powder. You drop it in there, you let it fizzes, and it's doing some cleaning action, and then you do your thing, and everything smells delicious. It was the best gift ever.
That's hilarious. I didn't know those existed either.
I didn't either. And I love it. You just like pop it in there, pour my coffee. Yep, I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right, enough about me. How about you?
That's well. I'll stay right where you're at. I told this on Salty Language, but because I was talking about MVP gifts, how sometimes you get a gift and it's not the biggest, the flashiest, whatever, but it's the one that you're like, this is the gift, right? And mine was because I got some gift cards and difference. A friend helped me get over the hump to, finally get a PS5.
Nice.
So I'm very blessed in that, you gave me an advent calendar of Funko Pops, which was awesome. And but my mom got me a blanket, and it's funny because I for anyone who doesn't know, I run hot all the time. So even in the winter, I've got a fan on me, but I'm very much the type that I want to have a fan on me. And if I do get cold from the fan, I don't turn the fan off. I just put a blanket over me. But the blanket that I had was like more of a lap throw blanket. So it wasn't big enough. I have a queen size bed and it wouldn't cover my bed. Right.
Mm.
So, and I'm not a huge guy as far as like height goes, but I am a big dude. So I take up a little more blanket that way. But what would happen is I almost have to kind of lay on an angle or kind of more in like the fetal position in order to be completely covered by this blanket. And it was like warm, but not like whole, like, oh my God, warm, and my mom found this blanket it's a king size blanket. So it easily covers my whole bed, and then some. And it's thin, but when I put it over me, it's the perfect size for me, like, or weight and heat for me.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I wish it was just a touch warmer. And honestly, the biggest downside to it is that if I go to kind of peel it off, it likes to kind of stick to my sheet. So sometimes I pull everything and I'm like, whoa, like too far. But otherwise it was perfect. I was so happy when I've used it now. And it was, like I said, it was, and she very much was like, when she was looking at blankets, my sister was like, that's not very thick, and my mom was like, Brian, like it's always, he's always hot, So it's like, he doesn't need a thick blanket. He just needs something to kind of cover, So yeah, that was 100% the MVP gift. And I was like, when I opened it, I was like really excited about it, and I don't know that my mom was anticipating how excited I was going to be over it. But I was, because the other blanket is, it worked, right? Like, you get used to things sometimes that may not be optimal, but you're like, this is what I have, And at any time I could have went out and bought another blanket. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't bother, but because for the most part, it was like, this is fine, because a lot of times if I can't stand my feet being hot, and that goes back to years ago, I had hives for like off and on for 6 months, and I kept getting them on my feet, and it was horrible because, like I would go and stand in the bathtub and just, put, a couple inches of water in the bathtub just to basically soak my feet in ice cold water to try to get because, when you have hives, they itch and they burn and whatever. Right. So anyway, so when my feet start getting hot, they start itching. I don't know what that is, but it's ever since I had those hives. I didn't have that before, and now, I have ever since. So I really, if my feet start getting too warm, I stick them out anyway. So with that other blanket, it was like, no big deal. I can just pull the blanket up a little bit and, expose my feet. But now, it's nice that on the times when I don't want to do that, I don't have to like crunch up or lay on an angle or, figure out the geometry or math or whatever here to stay warm. So yeah, that was nice. Like I said, it was it was a Christmas Eve stunk. I had a really wicked migraine, so I couldn't go to my family thing. I woke up and my mom was making biscuits and gravy, and I got out because I was going to help her carry stuff out to the car. And as I was doing it, I was like, God, it's just I can't do this. Just the light in our kitchen was just too much,
Ugh, brutal.
Yeah, so that sucked. I didn't go to that, but overall, it was a pretty good Christmas all around, and New Year's was quiet, just stayed home. We watched the New Year's Eve thing, the ball drop and everything. I didn't know who most of the music acts were, and that's always cool. Like I was telling Tony, I think I need someone from the 90s that was a VJ on MTV to, like, they need like a New Year's Eve thing with just that and acts from that are all in people my age's wheelhouse. That way, I think you hit a different demographic. Because like CBS had all country, and one, I don't love country, and second of all, I don't know who most of them are, and I don't know who most of the people on the other one are. So I'm in this like weird like zone of like I don't know who, and then they'll bring someone like, oh hey, I know them. But yeah, whatever. But it was still fine, So we just did that. I ordered some pizza and whatever. So it was, nice and quiet, but that I'm fine with that. I'm not looking to go. I for sure don't want to go out and party, like if I was at somebody's house and we were having some drinks, whatever, but I am definitely not, never been one to like, let's go to the club or any of that stuff. Cause one, I feel too old for that now, but two, I just don't want that scene. I don't want to be out around a bunch of people that have been drinking, like when it comes driving time and stuff either, big fan of staying away from all that. So yeah, but yeah, I was getting excited because like my therapist had to take some extended time off for a surgery, and I was supposed to have an appointment tomorrow actually, and I got a text Friday that apparently she's going to be out longer than expected, so I got to call and reschedule, and I'm like, man, because I don't know when she's coming back, but from that point, they're also going to be rescheduling everyone else. So it's probably going to be, I know there's another person up there that I've seen before that I could probably go talk to, but it's not a big deal. I'll just wait. But I'm very much in the like it's time mindset again. Like I've said that before, how you can kind of feel like, I need this, and I've very much, I've still been slowly getting through Rick Rubin's book, and really enjoying some of that mindset of, just like let everything in, open the channels and kind of feel and experience things versus trying to filter everything and shut everything out. That's a really hard thing to do for any of us that have really trained yourself to shut out stimuli, and not even realizing that you're doing it. But then, somebody I follow on social media posted about how they feel really stressed over when people say stuff about what's your passion or that you should follow your passions, And I was like, yeah, I feel that because, when I tell people I don't know which way to point myself, that's the first question I get asked a lot of times is, well, what are you passionate about? And it's like, yeah, you see, when you have long-term depression, you don't really typically have passion for things. It kind of robs you of a lot of that. So it's a hard question to answer. When I go back to what was I passionate about? Well, I was passionate about, the comic and game store I had. I was passionate about art that I've done. At this point, I'm not passionate about either as much, so it's difficult to really answer and go that direction, and it was nice seeing her post that because it's very much like, it's always nice when you see somebody else, understand, like you don't want to see anyone else struggle. Right. But it's nice to know that other people at least understand that, the struggles you're having. Yeah. Because I think for a lot of people, for some people it's easy, like I always thought it'd be easy, since I was a little kid. I was like, I want to be an artist. I mean, I'm from a little kid. That's why I want to be an artist all through school, all through, high school, all through college. It was like, I'm going to be an artist. This is what it is. And then to hit a point that I'm at now, I would have never seen this coming, so it's very weird in that regard to where like my whole life I focused everything on, I basically put all my eggs in one basket. I really did. When I was in school, that was all I really did was, what art classes do you have? I'll take all of them, So, and then, work, I only worked retail. So now it's like, well, I can't really put these two things together here, like there's no, because she even mentioned that some people will be like, okay, well, if you're not passionate, well, what are you good at? Well, again, we come back to like the things I'm good at. I can't monetize currently because I have a hard time sitting down creating. And that would be what I would probably do otherwise is, like a lot of people have done where they, start doing various art things and promoting it on social media and all that stuff. That's probably what I would do. But, I just keep struggling with what am I going to do with my life? Like I'm 46, like I feel like I should find a direction at some point, like before that direction is 6 feet under, like I'm so lost. I just don't have answers for it. And it's super frustrating, because the want is there, but there's also all these walls in the way, too. So,
that's what I thought that book was so great about, is just breaking down any sort of barrier or boundary.
Yeah.
Including the one, what I loved the best was where he describes the artist who just says, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And he says, okay, so don't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, why put that pressure on yourself?
Yeah. So don't ever. And then thought about it and came back and said, well, I like doing this.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So do it.
I think, but that, but you're right. Like,
so Rick.
But that attitude was very that they're like, well, this is all I've ever done. This is all I know, but I'm not enjoying it anymore. And then he's basically like, well, if it's not bringing you, so stop. Why be miserable, right?
Yeah.
And then that gave them that ability to take that step out of it and look and really reflect on it. Like, is it as bad as I think it is, or blah, blah, blah. Or now it's like, well, what don't I enjoy about this? Can I change those things? Maybe I don't like putting out an album every year. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll put one out every few years now, or when I feel like it more so, especially if you're a person that's already maybe made some fame, made like life-changing money kind of situation, to where like Rihanna, people keep begging Rihanna for a new album and she's just like, meh, like she's a billionaire. I mean, she doesn't have to put another album out ever if she doesn't want to, I assume she will at some point, but she's had a couple of kids. She's seemingly pretty happy. So, whatever at this point. Right. But, I thought that was a great point too. Like when he says that, cause it really is, it's, and I saw, people years ago talking about that with, if you don't think you can make a major change in your life, like where you work, like you're like, I'm miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. It's like, well, you don't have to just cut bait and run. You can just start taking little steps. Like, do you need schooling? Well, enroll in school. Take a couple of classes, just slowly work your way. And eventually you can, maybe completely walk away from one to the other. But, especially the people like you were talking earlier, right? Like a lot of people feel pigeonholed because, I've got a family. We have to have insurance. We have, have to have this income, whatever. But it's like, are there steps you can take toward whatever? And my therapist has mentioned this to me too about like with art is it's like, you don't have to sit down and like create a masterpiece, like doodle. Yeah. Right. Work it up from there kind of a thing. And then, again, break anything down. Like it's typical therapy stuff. Break things down to the smallest step possible and try to just baby step it, Yeah. And like you said, that was why I was excited about reading his book was I've heard enough of him in the podcasts I've listened to that I'm like, I don't want to be full on his mindset, but I want to be more that way because I feel I'm too rigid and closed.
Well, that's it. He's trying to open the reader's mind.
Yeah.
To the possibility. And that's why I think that whole, I think you talked about it on Salty Language where, the thing, he brings it back to being a child.
Yeah.
And you had no limits when you were a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything was an open thing. There were no boundaries. There were no barriers. You had nothing to throw up because you didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to bring yourself back to that. And he does it in a step-by-step way.
Yeah.
Basically kind of saying, look at all of these different things that you can do to try to, bring creativity back into your life. And I just love how he starts with cooking is art.
Yeah.
If you create, you are making art. If you are making clothing or sewing or, in your garden, it can all be art. Anytime you create, it's art. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. That's why I said, go ahead. Yeah.
No, it really brought me back to even, like so much of it was like just this giant shotgun blast into a wall, right?
Yeah.
Like that's his approach, right? It's like, here, let me break down every possible argument you might have.
Yeah.
Right. And which is kind of like, all right, is that really effective? But it's you really need to look at, for me, it was like, all right, what's behind this?
Yeah.
What's behind this? And the bottom line is the only thing preventing me from doing my art is me.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
And that's it. And if I can't find a tool in here to open me up, then I don't want to find that tool. And maybe I should just stop. Like you said, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah, and that is a great point. It's not for everyone, and that's why I, like you said, it's like it's such a shotgun blast of that. And what gets me the most from his stuff is that it very much is about trying to really crack those walls that we are taught to put down. Like, let joy in, let yourself stop and smell the roses, let yourself admire the clouds and see what is around you. Like like the best way I can put it is it really is trying to teach you how to meditate with your eyes open.
Yep.
Because when you meditate, you're trying to block everything, or not really block everything, but center yourself to where things aren't distracting so much. But when you open your eyes to everything, what he's also trying to teach you is basically like a grounding technique, in that you are getting distracted, but you're also not, because what you are doing is you're experiencing, instead of just walking somewhere and you're just whatever. But you look and you go, like you said, you look at the shape of the clouds, or how weird it is that there's this shape of a cloud directly juxtaposed to a different shape, or one is super dark and one's white and fluffy, or, whatever it is, and just being kind of caught up in those moments, because he's right that, like, when you're younger, you see all of that and you don't block any of that out. Shit, I forgot where I was. But yeah, like I said, when you're a kid, you don't block any of those things out. You take a lot of that in, and inspiration really can be anywhere. It's like, any of those, you listen to Song Exploder, you listen to Broken Record, any of those kind of things, and you listen to like songwriters talk about just, they heard a random sound and they were like, ooh, and now they got a beat or a hook or something, or they hear like words somewhere and they go, oh, that'd be a really cool lyric. And then they write a song kind of around, so you just don't know. And it's another thing I really like. I very much appreciate that his mindset on essentially sampling is not that you're stealing. It's more that you're inspired by something and you create off of a creation. And that's really what most art is, even if you don't see the inspiration in it. A lot of us are inspired by fill in the blank favorite artist or fill in the blank favorite musician, and you do things in a, maybe has a little of their style in it. It's not that you're trying to directly steal from them. I mean, you are, but not in a nefarious way. Like you're more like, I love them and I want to do a tribute to this, which, hearing this makes me want to do this, or seeing this makes me want to create this. And I couldn't tell you over the years, like when I was drawing and stuff, how many times I would see photographers do something, and I'd be like, oh, that would be really cool to draw, because you could also do this with it, like to where it's derivative, but you're not, like I said, you're not doing it to try to steal from anyone. You're just like, it's almost like you want to pay a compliment to that by adding to it and showing what it's inspired in you as an artist, and I like that he very much is kind of that mentality that basically, tons of art is basically, directly inspired by something else that was inspired by something else that was inspired by, kind of a thing. I think that helps a lot too, because it's so amazing. Like we all know songs that have samples in it, and you're just like, man, that sample made that song, but I can totally see where they heard that hook and were like, especially in like a hip hop song or something where they hear a hook from, like Jay-Z has Hard Knock Life, right? Like where it takes a sample from Annie, and you're just like, oh, this fits so good. Or Eminem has like Toy Soldiers that he wrote a song around, or, different ones. And it's just, you hear some of that stuff and you're just like, oh man, I could see where you could hear that line in repetition and still like, oh, I can write around that, you know? And it's cool. Cause it really is, it reminds you a little bit like when you're in art school, they tell you go to the art museum, mimic the masters, like sit and find a painting or a drawing or something that you love and copy it. And it's not about stealing. It's about learning why the artists did what they did. It's about learning a style, a thought process, and just, kind of getting out of your own head. But eventually as an artist or a musician, whatever, you kind of find your own voice along the way, even if it does have, no, it's one of those where like, if you saw like the chart, like the evolution of man, it's like you could see you, but then you see like all these other musicians or artists behind you that, without that influence, you wouldn't have found that voice that you found. I've heard Jack White talk about that, about how, if there was no Neil Young or this person, that he's like, I would have never figured out who I was, kind of a thing. So, but yeah, anyway, that book is seriously written exactly for a person like me, in that all the chapters are super short, because I can read 1 or 2 chapters and walk away, or I can read 5 or 6 chapters if I'm really kind of zoning into it, but I've also found myself a couple times going back and rereading, not because I didn't remember something, but I want to remember some of it. So I'm trying to, and I've gotten myself reading slower and more deliberate now to try to really soak the words in, instead of the way that I used to read, which was closer to skimming. But I used to have such a high, whenever we did that in school, and they would do, where you skim and then you have to answer questions afterwards, I would always ace that. Like I had such high retention. It's like, oh, I missed that so bad. not the reading fast, but just the retention part, But yeah, I think that book is hitting me right when I need to. And when I finished that book, Michelle gave me a book called The Art on War, I think it is. And it's basically about how artists fight within themselves to create. So, and it's a really short book. So easily digestible, But anyway, so yeah, the end of the year, I think, started picking up for me because I was, starting to sell some stuff on eBay finally, which for a while there, I was really worried about. I was going through maybe the slowest point I've had in all the years that I've sold. It was a little scary, like I was very like, I don't know if I'm going to, even sell anything through Christmas the way it was going at first, but that picked up a little bit. And like I said, the rest of the year was pretty decent, and who knows about 2025, we've talked before, obviously we'll get to it at some point in the show, but that we're not really resolution people, but we're power words or goals kind of people. And, I was talking with people the other day about it, and I just, it blows my mind because, again, early December talking with people and they're, after in January, I'm going to this, and it's like, well, why are you waiting? Just do it. Like, just start now. Again, I understand if it's a food related or an exercise related goal, more so food related, because, with Christmas, everybody loves to kind of indulge, but you can still shoot for your goals and still, even if you indulge, you just, make the best decisions you can otherwise. Like, hey, I'm going to the family thing. I'm going to eat like a pig tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to get back after what I'm trying to do. But, there was something else I was going to talk about. I don't remember what it is. So whatever. That's enough.
I heard it was on a YouTube video with, he's a mixing engineer, and he was talking about what he likes to do at the end of the year is his annual inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And his annual inventory isn't just, some of it's physical.
Yeah.
Like actually looking at like, what do I have here? What am I not using? What, do I need anything? Da, da, da. But the other one was just also, personal inventory. What's serving me? What isn't serving me?
Yeah.
Is physical and non-physical. And I really liked when he talked about that, because that's kind of where I was facing last year. I was kind of facing what do I want to do with music, in like a personal inventory. Like, okay, what am I doing? What's serving me, what's not serving me, and let's take an actual look at this stuff. And I really liked that concept of again, inventory is non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Inventory is it's just counting. It's analysis. It's not, you're just making an accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And then based off of what you find, then you can make your decisions.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking about that a little bit about, okay, what's my inventory? What do I want to do going forward? And because I have a lot of choices right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have choices, I have opportunities, and I also do have some commitments, but there are some things that it's funny how when I have something that feels really strong, like I get a strong feeling about something, like especially with music, like
Mm-hmm.
I have a strong positive or a strong negative, and yet the strong negative, because it's music, it's like I try not to be judgmental about art.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's always someone that loves something.
Yep.
Right?
It's true.
But
yeah.
when you have a very strong negative, it's like I think I kind of got to listen to that one,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just funny how I had this, I was working on some video stuff, and I was like, God, I don't like this. Like, I really don't like this. I just don't like this.
Yeah.
So why am I doing it?
Right. Well, yeah, because it's different if you're doing it for someone else. Like if you're editing someone else's music video or something like that, you're like, well,
especially
I'm
what's
doing
my
a
own.
job. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. It's like when, then it's just
right?
a job. Yeah. When it's your own, it's like, why am I doing this if I'm not,
right.
Or like Rick Rubin said, sometimes with art, sometimes you got to put it on the shelf for a while. I've talked about that in the past with drawings and paintings and stuff. And a lot of artists will work on multiple things and they'll put something away for, I remember doing that in high school. There was something I put away, and I mean, man, I put it away for like 3, 4, 5 months. And then finally one day I looked at it and I kind of was like, oh, you know what? And then it was like, there we go. Now I'm ready to come back to this. you know, and it wasn't that it was done or anything. It was just that I was very much like, you hit a point to where, I don't know if I'd call it burnout or whatever, or, you know, the best way to put it is familiarity breeds contempt, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you get that as any sort of a creative person gets that. Like if you're around whatever you're creating long enough, you probably will hate it at some point and you will come back to love it generally. So sometimes in order to come back to loving it, you just have to walk away. I know writers do it too. You know, you walk away from something for a few days, a week, a month, whatever it is. And then you come back and you look at it again and you go, okay, now I can also objectively look at it and edit, you know, because when you're into it a certain level, sometimes you almost start hate editing. So, you know, you have to be careful you're not being destructive. Although, you know, sometimes in destroying art, you create. So, but it's a delicate line sometimes. But exactly.
I really appreciated that when he said that about putting stuff away.
Yes.
And because there's things that I'm involved with right now that have been going on for a long time, and I have my own music and stuff. There's things that I started decades ago and I've never finished it.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like finishing some of it.
Right.
And some of it might need to just be put away for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like that's what I really loved is no matter what you decide, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I loved.
I loved his idea too about the like that ideas are just around us.
Yeah.
And then we just bring them to life basically. And I love the idea that basically sometimes you're just not ready to bring an idea to life.
Idea forward.
And that's part of why you have to put something on the shelf is like that idea is just not around you yet, you know?
Yeah. And like
it sounds so silly, but it, you know.
Yeah. And like that person, sometimes one person found the idea before everyone else did, but it was out there.
Yeah.
It was just that person was ready to take it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I firmly believed in that. I never really applied it in the art world though, but I always applied it more in like science and stuff. When somebody will be like, oh, well, this person, blah, 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 this. And if it wasn't for them, and I'm like, somebody else probably would have figured that out. You know, like there's a lot of those ideas out there that it's like someone else probably would have come up with. Like there's certain things, maybe not because really outside the box thinking, but sooner or later, somebody else would probably have figured out, you know, fire or whatever, you know what I mean? Like we would have, you know, so eventually. It makes sense that it lands in the art world too, because, you know, like you see it in comedy a lot or in movies, TV, writing, there's a lot of parallel thinking. Like you'll see a joke and you'll go, oh, I saw that in whatever else. And it was like, I don't think they meant to steal it. It's just probably parallel thinking, you know, that some, you know, two people grabbed it at the same time when it was floating by, you know, like,
that's it.
And then there is obviously, you know, sometimes people are straight stealing, but I don't think a lot of times that's the intent. You know, it happens. I'm sure, you know, it happens in everything. It happens in music. I've seen it in comic books to where somebody will do a cover and somebody else will be like, hey, man, that's really close to this cover that some guy did. And, you know, unless it's like an iconic cover, then it's a little different because then it's like, come on, man, you can't, if you're going to steal, you can't steal from like the greats. You know, like there's certain covers of like Wolverine or Spider-Man that every comic geek knows. And it's like, if you even get close to that same pose, everyone's going to call you on it unless you put a little like homage, you know, like after so-and-so on it so that they know you're directly tributing that artist, you know? But yeah, I like that too, because there's been so many times I couldn't tell you how many times on Twitter I'd put something in my notes and I'll be like, I'll come back around and kind of work this out a little bit later. And then I'll just be reading and I'll see someone else post basically exactly. And I'm like, dang it. So I go in my notes, delete it, you know, because it's like, well, someone got there first. Oh, well, you know, type of thing. And, you know, and I did that even like, drawing. There was one of my projects in college. I don't remember what it was now. There was something we were doing, and when I started working on it, one of the people in my class, he was like, hey, you know somebody already did that, right? And I'm like, what? And then he showed me, I was like, oh, I had never seen it before. Right. It's just parallel thinking, like I said, so of course I was like, well, I got to start over because I don't want to make it look like I'm stealing anybody's idea, because generally that's never any of our goals, So, but it is frustrating also because I already put all that time into it thinking I'm working on something original, and and it was because it was my take on the idea, but it was still so close to the other person's that I was like, this is, it's too close. Yeah. I've heard comedians tell stories about that to where someone will, they'll know that the other person has a joke within the same format, but it's different. So kind of whoever goes on first, it's like, well, if you're going to tell that, I'm not going to tell mine tonight because, otherwise it's going to be very weird because they'll be like, didn't that guy just tell that joke? So yeah, there's a lot of little tips in there that I think, like, I think for me, the biggest thing is just cracking the shell and getting the mindset back of don't dump on an idea just because it's not what you think is brilliant, because you never know, a little piece of that idea might be something that turns into something, or you might take a little piece from this idea and add it to this piece from this idea. Now you have something, whereas I think a lot of us at a certain point, it's almost like with music, right? Like you turn on within like 5 seconds, you're like, I don't like this. It's like, well, let's hold on. Let's listen to the whole song maybe, or at least give it, a good chance or something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us kind of get conditioned to where we're very much like elevator pitch or I don't care, and I think that's kind of what he's like, no, hear the whole pitch, and actually listen to the pitch, don't just listen for keywords or whatever. And I think that's a big key there too, is that it's also very much about being aware of what's around you, aware of what's going on. So, because I remember in high school, like the couple of the art teachers I had would be like, hey, let's go draw outside today. And then you're just like, why? But then you get outside and next thing you know, you're drawing a tree, or you see a branch that's kind of shaped weird. Now, you're drawing that, and for no real reason, but you're noticing it. It's now you're bringing, it's already alive, but you're bringing it to life, the idea, and you're putting your stylistic spin on it or whatever. And then afterwards you're kind of like, oh, that's why we went and sat outside and drew, because we wouldn't have seen that inside.
Right. And it's also the part where it's just like, well, what are you going to do next? Chop wood, carry water. I mean, that's it. That's what I loved about Rick, when Rick talks about how many songs the band recorded and how many they ended up with sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there are no bad ideas. Just keep recording, Oh, we ended up with 20 something songs. We picked 9, and then maybe of those other ones, maybe you pull a piece here or pull a piece there, like just try all the ideas. And it's a good reminder, like, because here's my thing is, don't get precious about it.
Yeah.
Like it ain't. It's just not. It was a moment in time.
Yeah.
That whenever, like there's some ideas I've written some demos on, and I recently sent them to a friend because I want to collaborate with them. Mm-hmm. And I have a completed song. It's a completed song, but it was completed in that moment in time.
Yeah.
Today is not that moment in time.
Right.
Today's the possibility to take that, tear it all apart, and come up with something new.
Yeah. I've heard there's 2 things I wanted. Like I heard on one of those podcasts where there was somebody who did that with a song, where they had written a song, and when they brought it to the band was basically like, this song's not our thing, but we love this part. And like the guitarist like wrote around that, and then they created another song. Yeah. And I was like, that's so cool, because but you're right. If that original person gets real precious about you can't touch my baby.
Yep.
That song's complete.
Then that's it. It's dead. It's done.
Right. It's done. Yep.
Nothing more happens there.
Right. And I've also heard musicians talk about how maybe a song didn't fit that album, but the next album it fit perfectly.
Oh yeah. It was
So
perfect.
sometimes you were
Yeah.
like, you know what, this actually fits the vibe of this album, but it's not what we're doing on this one. Like maybe you have a different producer and you play it for them and they're like, oh, that'd be great for whatever here,
Yeah.
you know.
But they still
you know.
did the work, and I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. Is
Yeah.
is
Well,
is,
and he's
is-
totally right. I've talked about that even in art, how, you know, we used to have to do 50 or 100 or 200 thumbnail sketches for a project, and you couldn't just do basically the same thing every time. You know, like you had to do significant changes in order to get credit for these. And the idea of it was basically you empty all of your creativity out on that paper, because you never know, that very last one that you do could turn into the best one. And you might
Yeah.
think you have a great one at number 5. Like, well, I don't want to do 45 more. And it's like, but again, that 50th one might be the one the client loves, you know, or it turns out to be like, oh man, I really had a breakthrough here. And that's the same thing Rick Rubin is saying, because I remember him talking to the Chili Peppers about that, about how they wrote, and he was just like, keep writing. If you got something, keep writing.
Yep. Keep going.
And then we'll see what we got. Yeah.
So this article I want to discuss ties right in with this, because it's basically from a Buddhist monk, and it was just something I got off of on Apple News on CNBC, and it was just 4 basic things to like make your life less difficult. And
nice.
and they fall in with this. You know, number 1, think positively as often as possible.
Yeah.
Think about if you just took your art and just thought positively about it.
Yeah.
No negative, just positive. I'm just gonna stay positive.
I can't even imagine that.
yeah. You know, but like the article says, he's like, humans naturally lean towards pessimism. So, you know, you have to be intentional by reminding yourself that even in most difficult times, you know, that all difficult times come to an end. That's a positive thought, right?
Even your worst day is only 24 hours. We've talked about that one before. Yep.
Yep. Like, look on the bright side. Be confident in your own decisions, right? And so avoid giving too much weight to what other people think.
Yeah.
Right?
Or doing things the way someone else does. If you know that this person that you admire, that's an artist, songwriter, whatever, if this is their process, that doesn't mean it's your process.
Yeah.
You know?
It's that you must know your own mind first. And I love this. Keep in mind that you are the protagonist in your own life.
Yeah.
So, and that's a choice. Do I want to be the protagonist in my life, or do I want to be the antagonist? Do I want to be the villain or the hero?
Yeah.
In my own life.
That one friend of mine that when I was like, you know, talking about finishing artwork, and she was like, you're the artist. You decide when it's finished. And it was like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. If I do a drawing and it's half finished, but I say it's done, it's done.
It's done.
Doesn't matter what anyone else says. If I say it's done, it's done. Unless I'm going to hand it to someone else to keep working on. Yeah. It's done. I
have loved doing that with music, where they're like, is there a guitar solo? No.
Yeah.
Well, is it? There's only really one verse. Like, yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's done. That's it. I said what I needed to say, you know? The third was, remember, both successes and failures are already in the past. I just thought that was so brilliantly simple.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to your craft, there will be a mix of huge accomplishments, low moments, and everything in between. It's important to remember that work is a living thing.
Yep. Well, like we said before, you know, the art is the art. You know, that's.
Yep. And then I just love that it's already in the past.
Yeah.
Know when to walk away from battles. And I just, that's also part of this. Not happy?
Yeah.
Stop.
Walk away. Yeah.
Walk away.
Or it's like it's done, or put it on the shelf. And even if you never go back to it, that's okay too.
Yeah. And that's the idea of staying out of becoming attached to the outcomes.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there sometimes you just got to step out, and you're just like, you know what? I had a goal, but I don't need to finish it.
Yeah.
You don't.
The art doesn't
there.
have to be finished to be finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you say it's done, or I'm done with it, then that's it. It's the end of it. You know, you
Yeah.
said, you know, you're the protagonist. You choose the outcome.
You're the
on that.
protagonist. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it mentioned about like if you didn't
I
get
like
a
that.
promotion, you
Mhm.
know, like don't complain about the person that did.
Yeah.
Go and work on your own skills so you
Yeah.
get it next time.
Yep.
You know, like
That's what I always did when
be the
if I got past,
protagonist.
if I didn't get a promotion, I'd always be like, okay, well, what am I like? What do I need to do to get that promotion? I didn't say, what do they have that I don't have? Any of that. I would just be like, what do I need to do? And
Yeah.
get that feedback, because it you know, if you read management books, they tell you that too, you know, like always focus on you, don't focus on someone else, because when
Yeah.
you focus on someone else, it reads as egotistical, because, you know, well, why aren't, you know, I'm as good as they
Yeah.
are, and it's like, well, you're not, or
Well, clearly you're not. Yeah.
yeah, or whatever, you know, or maybe you are, but I still had to pick a person. You know, maybe I just flipped a coin.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm sure that happens occasionally, to where it really is, you know, a theoretical coin flip between people. You're like, man, both of them got this experience. They both got this. They both, like, what do we do? It's like, well, which one did you just vibe better? And that's it,
Yeah.
you know?
That was it. Yeah.
And it's not that anyone's more qualified than the others. It's like, we just feel like this person's the better fit, you know? It's sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Those
I
are
love,
great
I love
points, though. I like that.
It's just real simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop. These are it's so great. It's like stop making life more difficult for yourself.
Yeah.
And I love how simple it is.
I know.
Like it really comes
Yeah.
down to these like four.
Why are you
little
punching
things.
yourself? Why are you punching
Right?
yourself? Why are you punching yourself? You know, that's what I find the more I read into Buddhism, is there's so much of it that when you first read it, you're just like, really? And then, you know, you give it like 2 seconds and you're just like, oh, wow, that's really profound, even though
Yeah.
it's super simple.
It
But
is.
it's maddening when something so simple lands so heavy.
Yeah.
You know, like you forget sometimes how elegant of a tool a hammer can be. You know,
know what?
like
Some of the
that's really what
simplest-
it is.
Yeah. The elegance is in its simplicity. It really is.
Yeah.
That's why I think Buddhism, I just resonated with it so
yeah.
because of that. And you know, it's all about being the best you that you can be. And the fact that most of our problems are self-made, and
Yeah.
which is also beautiful, because that means that you can unmake it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's your problem. So
Right.
unmake it. I just love that. Be the
Right.
protagonist in your own
Yeah.
life.
Or it's in the past or in the future, so it doesn't exist. Only
Well,
now.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The success and the failures are already done.
Yeah.
You know, and Rick touches on that, you know, where somebody had the huge hit.
Yeah.
Well, you had the huge hit.
Yeah.
That's done. Now what?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Like, you know, what are we doing now? Like, why are we sitting here currently? Otherwise, you know, that's pretty good. I like that though.
Gotta
I
love
always
it.
love that. Like, yeah, I know. It's like I occasionally like will stumble across something like that, and I'm just like, you know, because it's like I said, it's so maddening how it reminds you of like the people. It's almost on the level. It's not as far as the message goes, but it's on those levels of like when people are like, "Have you just tried smiling more?" You know,
Yeah.
like, and you're just like, "Come on," you know, like stop it.
But have you?
Have you? Yeah.
You? Right?
Right.
Like, but have you?
Yeah. I have
Okay.
a friend of mine that we joke all the time because of how many people tell you, you know, like when you're depressed, like, well, have you just tried being happy? You know, and it's like that,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. Like, I know what they're trying to say, and they're right. Like, trying to pick positivity over negativity is a goal, right? Like that
Yeah.
most of us work on. But when you hear those kind of platitudes, you're just like, you know, you get a little twitchy. So her and I, no matter what it is, you know, she told me she had a cold, and I'm like, have you tried not having a cold? You know, like
Cold.
so whatever it is with us, that's the
Yeah.
joke, right? And, you know, and it cracks us up because we both know that we obviously care, but it's also very much like, you know, again, it's maddening when people do that kind of stuff because it feels so dismissive of your whatever it is you're going through at the time, you know?
Yep.
So, and it's not, they really are coming from a place of love and care, but it just feels so dismissive. So, all right. Well, so the last thing we should do here before we get out of here is, every year we do our power words. And last year, our power words, you and I picked the same one, which was joy.
Yep.
Because it's, for me, generally not something I'm good at, which is living in joy, honestly, or finding joy. And again, I talked about it a little bit ago, the longer you have depression, the more it robs you of things that brought you joy. So for me, I think I really don't feel like I did a good job on it. I feel like I made progress, but I don't feel like I put full effort into this. I guess that's the way to put it. I did in moments, like a great example, I think would be the blanket that I talked about.
Yeah.
Right. I found great joy in that blanket. And I think at times I would have just been like, yeah, it's a blanket. Thanks. I appreciate you got me a blanket, but whatever. Whereas I think like this year I was more in a mindset that I was just like, this is a really thoughtful, perfect gift for me. This wasn't somebody who just gave everybody the same blanket type of situation, right?
Yeah.
So where everyone gets a blanket and, it's hit or miss about whether it's a good gift or not for the person involved. And like with me, like, I love when people put good thoughts into gifts. Like, I hate when you get something and you're just kind of like, you didn't really even think about me on this. It's like, it's nice that you thought of me, but
you thought of, exactly. I know exactly.
Now,
what you mean.
in fairness, I'm also very much the guy that if you just hand me a gift card, I'm thrilled with it. Because I feel like, to me, giving me a gift card allows me to get whatever it is that I feel at that moment is what I either need or want. So I'm very okay with that too. So it's a little weird in that regard. But I think those kind of things, like I said, the blanket or just little stuff through the year. I do think I made some good progress on trying to find more joy. Looking up at the clouds again and enjoying that, and sunrises and sunsets and those kind of things that are a little more easy to dismiss, because you see clouds every day, or you see this every day, or, so eventually you just be like, meh, and move on. And like I said, there's still quite a few things that I definitely could do better on, but I do feel like I made some progress on it. But, not going to judge myself too harshly on it, I guess. So
I think in some aspects of my life I did okay with it, but I think overall I kind of didn't. If I think about like my work, if I look at my workplace last year, I didn't approach it with joy. More times than not, I was just annoyed, and I think I just dove into it too much, and I really, I don't even. I think it was a good goal, but I kind of wish I checked in on it myself a little more with it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Hey, remember, your goal is joy, and I think.
Well, I got an idea. Maybe what do you think of instead of just doing it once a year, that maybe we do it in like July to check in?
Well, I think we should check in.
Yeah, at least somewhere.
When we looked at it, I was like, what the? You think somewhere in the course of the year I would have reminded myself of this one.
Yeah, so maybe we need to do at least one check-in somewhere else in the year and just be like, hey, remember this?
What's really funny is we chose this word joy, and it ended up being this big, huge thing in the Kamala Harris campaign. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is. It is kind of weird. Yeah.
Like it was this huge thing.
Yeah.
And yet we just randomly beginning of last year,
way before that ever. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, way before ever, which is kind of funny. And
really, one last thing, really quick. I think something I forgot about was starting that book, even though I've been going through it very slowly, is made me really happy that I'm at least reading a book again.
Oh yeah, that's a big win.
even though, like I said, I'm moving at a snail's pace through it, but I'm still so happy. And after I read a few chapters of it, it reminds me why I loved reading so much, which was, you know, because most of what I read was not fiction. You know, I generally, like, even on the internet, I read to learn most of the time. You know, that's most of the podcasts I listened to were not entertainment ones. They were mostly like things where I could learn something. You know, that's how I've always been. And I was like, you know, getting back to that. And then, like, after reading a little bit in that book, and then, you know, you take a step, you kind of go back over it in your head and digest it a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, this is feeding part of me that hasn't been getting fed, you know. And that was again, that was, you know, like lighting the pilot light on something that brought me a ton of joy in the past. So hopefully that'll keep going forward.
Well, what do you have in mind for this year?
And that's a great question.
I think I'm running with service.
Yeah.
Because when I had some reality checks when I was home for Thanksgiving, and it really was, and also at work, whatever difficulties that I present to myself in my home personal relationship or my working relationships would be a lot easier if I had more of a service mindset.
Okay, that's
and
fair.
that's just and just the idea of being other centered. And I think it could help me a lot if I remind myself that, you know, here I am. If I'm willing to take on a service mindset, I will be less self-centered. I will be more other-centered, and I will feel better because service always feels good.
It feeds ego. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whether we want to look at it that way or not, it 100% does. So yeah, you generally feel good helping others or being of service. Yeah.
Being of service and again, just stepping out of my own desires, wants, and needs, and prioritizing, what can I do for you? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's going to be, and that's one I really would love to check up on in the middle of the year.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else too, right? It's like, you know, when you go to therapy, sometimes it's not about any big breakthroughs. Sometimes it's just you need a little course correct.
Yeah.
You know? You just to remind you, hey, this is what you want to do. You're straying off the path here. Yeah. So, you know, that's why I said maybe we do a mid-year check-in or something.
I like this.
That way we can course correct if we don't feel like we're hitting our goal there.
Yeah.
All right. So you said service is going to be yours. Okay. Well, we're definitely not going to have the same one this year. So, because man, helping others, that's a lot of work. No.
Well, it's also about opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, like I clearly have a lot more opportunity to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my work, you know, like every single day somebody's asking me to do something and my reaction to their request.
Yeah.
Right? I have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Right. You know, I think I'm going to go with baby steps.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think the book thing really, you know, it's one of the things that it's who I am, and it's probably a fault at times in that I'm not the, you know, like I told my therapist initially, right? Like I'm not the type that if you give me go home and write down homework for therapy, I don't like that. I like stuff I feel like I can just go apply, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to write down how I feel every time I feel this or what. Like it bugs me. I don't, you know, I don't like micromanaging myself in that regard. So, but you know, I mentioned a little bit ago, you know, in therapy that's one of the things they tell you, which is any task that seems daunting for anxiety purposes, especially, break it down to a small of a task as you can and succeed in said task, then succeed in not succeed, but try, right?
Yeah.
And then, if you succeed, that usually can give you momentum to carry forward. Again, like you talked about years ago, going to the gym, getting on the treadmill for 15 minutes. Going to the gym is step one. That's, hey, I'm here, right?
In the door.
Because once you're there, you're not likely to just turn around and walk right back out.
Yeah.
You're probably going to do something. So, okay, next micro bit, I'm going to get on the treadmill for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever your number is.
Only made it 5.
Right. But you know what I mean?
Enough.
But how many times does that, I'm only going to do 5 or 10, turn into, you know what? Hey, wow, it's been half an hour, or whatever. And then you go back tomorrow and it's, so I think that's where I'm going to try really hard to find the things like, what is it that I want to do this year? I would like to do some drawing. Can I just sit down and scribble a little bit?
Yeah. Did you take a baby step?
Yeah, draw a pop bottle, draw, whatever. Just draw the stuff on my desk like I used to do when I was in high school. When I was in class and the teacher's giving a boring lecture, I would just start drawing stuff in the classroom. Like my one teacher drank Mountain Dew. I drew his Mountain Dew can every day if I look back now, I should have kept it and made like a thing out of it because
but amazing.
The Mountain Dew cans at that time had different designs on them for some promotion. So each day, plus depending on how it was sitting on his desk, it was turned different ways, so I would just draw whatever I saw each day and I could have turned it almost into, like a little presentation, but something like that even. Because then at the end of the day, you go, you know what? I drew something today. I know they tell writers to do the same thing. Just go sit down for X amount of time, write whatever is in your brain, just get it on. Well, not on paper anymore, probably, but just get it out of you. And
write some words.
And it's a success because you never know what'll come out of those words or whatever. And, maybe doing those warm-up drawings eventually, maybe I start feeling, maybe I can tackle something a little bigger or whatever. So, and not just that, but it's like, I've got things I want to list on eBay, but it seems daunting because I have a lot, right? Like stuff like that. Like just, okay, can I get 5 on a week or whatever the number ends up being, and like baby step it and then see if that, because again, once you start doing stuff, usually the momentum will roll forward. Once you start rolling down a hill, you'll keep going. You don't generally roll 10 feet and stop, so it's, that's kind of the hope. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to go with is baby
I like
steps. Yeah. Even though
what's
I know
good is these are good, like easy, like, all right, were you, I can ask myself the question, was I of service in this scenario or was I self-centered? Also, like, did it, for you, did I take a baby step?
Right.
You either did or you didn't.
Yeah. Right. Did I try? Yep. Exactly.
And that's all we're shooting for.
Yeah.
Making the attempt.
Yeah. Keep the bar low.
Right. I still love it. Like, how's your day going? Doesn't suck.
Yep.
I set a low bar.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully I'll nail it.
I used to love when there was a guy we used to do flea markets with, and you'd be like, "How you doing today?" And be like, "I'm still above ground." Yep. Like, well, I guess that's a win.
I'm on this side of the lawn.
Yep.
Winning.
Exactly. Like, good enough, dude. Good enough. Like, glad to hear it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's what got the guy at the post office the other day when, I went in and, as we were talking a little bit and, I asked him how his holidays were and we were talking, like, I wasn't just like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. But, it was like, I was glad to hear he had a nice holiday with his family and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always good to hear because I know a few people that, boy, had some rough holidays, just got really bad news or whatever, so I'm always happier to hear when people are like, yeah, everything was great. And, it's like, awesome. I just love to hear it, man. Also, it's just nice when you ask somebody something and I want people to give me a real answer, but it's always nicer when you hear the positive answer. Yeah. Like, hey, if your holidays suck, that's fine. You can tell me that. I'm okay with that. But I'm I'm relieved when you go, oh, it was great. We did this and that. Like, awesome. So glad to hear it. Love it. Versus, some bad news or something. You're like, oh man.
Yeah.
I said, I'm very much the type you can tell me either, and I would prefer when I say how are you, I am one that I won't ask you if I don't want an answer from you. Even if it's some cashier at the food, the grocery store that I don't even know of. Hey, how you doing today? If they, I would still prefer that they're just like, it's been a long day. Be like, understandable.
Yep. No, yeah, exactly.
yeah. I get it, man. I've worked retail. I understand. So, I did that years ago. Like I said, at the video store, I learned really quick that it was like, if you're going to ask that question, then, you should expect a real answer. I actually hate it when I find out somebody just, whatever, it's like, oh no, don't give me that. Oh, you don't really want to hear it. Like I'm not
I'm asking.
normal. Yeah. I very much am asking. I understand. Most people don't, so whatever.
Yep.
All right. Well, I guess let's do the links and stuff here, eh? Since I pull up the thing. Right.
I was reviewing some links myself just now.
Oh yeah, like sausage links.
I was like, yes, because me and Jimmy Dean.
Delicious.
Yeah, I was kind of like, because now with Blue Sky, I'm Ida Heno, just like I was on X. But I'm like, well, what am I on Instagram? And I got my full name for that. But then for Threads, it's my old Just Slimo, which is like lame.
Well, yeah, that's right. I still have you listed as your real name. I still have do you still have a Twitter, or did you get rid of it?
I do. I still have it.
Oh, okay.
I'm still there as Ida Heno.
Well, I was gonna take it out of here if you didn't have it anymore.
No, I'm still on there, and I think the only thing I ever do is I think I share salty language, and that's about it.
Good man.
I think that's quite literally the only thing I've done other than liking my own personal things.
That's mostly what I do on Instagram, even though I don't even really do that anymore. Or Facebook, I mean, not Instagram. I basically just share the salty language stuff. All right. Can you send me the Buddhist thing that you have, if you have it?
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can.
All right. Anyways, if you want to continue talking with us, you can email us if you'd like to at the Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com. The better move would be to hit us on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod. I really should make a Blue Sky for the show. I actually feel like Blue Sky is the better home for this show. So maybe I'll be doing that. If so, it'll be at the Crazy Life Pod, if that's available. I imagine it will be. If you want to reach out to me on various socials like Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, you can find me at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language on Twitter. Unfortunately, it's on other stuff on the different things, but go to saltylanguage.com. You can find all of our links there. The show's not safe for work, just me and my best friend talking about all sorts of stuff. Like, we talked about all sorts of things, mostly like, the holidays, and then things that I watched this week, like Squid Game 2 and What If series season 3. We talked about Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man trailer, Watchmen animated. I tell a story which I didn't even tell in here about how I got stuck in my bathroom. So if you want to hear about that
story, was great.
Yeah, so if you want to hear about that, go check out that show, and you can find out how I got stuck in the bathroom, and other stuff. So yeah, again, not safe for work, so be careful where you listen. So how about you, Heno? Well, I guess we just went over your links, didn't we?
Kind of, yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, you can also find the show on facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast.
Yeah, I think on Threads I just need to make a little profile so I can put my actual name on there. Yeah, because it shows that it's locked. Yeah, because I don't have a bio written yet.
Oh, okay.
And I did that today. I copied my modded. Yes, I copied my FetLife one to Blue Sky. Correct. Well, part of it's actually there. Yeah, so
that's the right move.
Yeah.
I also forgot. Please check out TangibleNetwork.com, which is the network we're part of. So please go check out the other shows there. Yeah. And then,
I got a quote for you.
Okay.
to end this baby.
Well, hold on. We got one more thing before
yeah.
we do that. So,
What do you got?
which is, if you need help, please reach out.
Yes.
And also, just please check in on your friends. I won't say especially this time of year, because it's kind of a fallacy that this is the low point of the year. You know, it is for some people, but you know, low points hit people at different times. So just please check in on everybody. See how they're, well, not everybody, but, you know, as possible, be of service if you can. And of course, please be kind to one another, you know, and just spread kindness out there. All right. Now what you got?
All right. Goals for 2025. One thing I made peace with in 2024 is that I don't have to. I don't have to go above and beyond for others. I don't have to always be the bigger person. I don't have to fix what I didn't break. I don't have to show up for those who don't show up for me. And I definitely don't have to sacrifice my own happiness to please everyone else.
100%.